On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1986. We're going to be having a listen to Yoko Ono, and she's going to be performing Imagine. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, I have, for some reason, been looking forward to doing this video because I've had a lot of people mentioning about Yoko Ono and her voice, and I've never really listened to her singing or heard her singing before. So when I was sent this particular video, I thought I'll check it out and we'll jump into the analysis and see exactly what's going on with Yoko's voice. So I have isolated her vocal, run it through the pitch monitoring software. I know that singing and determining whether somebody can sing or not is totally subjective, because some people like a vocalist who doesn't hit the notes really accurately but has a certain quality to their voice and a certain expression that suits the way that they sing and deliver their vocal. So we're going to be listening to this and probably referring to the things that we refer to a lot in other analysis videos, and those things relate to, pitch accuracy, control, chest voice, head voice, dynamic appreciation, all of these different things that we have found great singers to have a mix of, and generally they'll just have top level ability at all of these different things and all of their techniques and stylizations. The first thing we're listening for is a relevance of pitch to a key. So it means that with just hearing Yoko's voice, if she can't sing at all, then we won't know where the song is and where the backing is. We won't know the key because she's not hitting notes that are relevant to a particular scale of a key. So let's have a listen.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
So straight away we've got na 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 na. We've got intervals. The first thing that I can relate to other videos are intervals being accurate. And in this case, we've definitely got intervals that she is being consistent with, and you can see that in the pitch monitoring software. The gaps between these held notes as we go forward are consistent. So that means that we're probably in na 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 na. It means na na. We've now got a relevance of key. So if I bring in the backing and it is in that key, then it means that Yoko does have an appreciation of pitch and relevant pitch to keys.
Imagine there's no heaven.
So, yes, we got the correct key just from her voice. So it means that her voice is accurate enough to communicate a key to somebody listening to her voice. So we will listen on.
It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky.
The other thing that we have in Yoko's voice, again, another technique, is vibrato. I think this is a natural vibrato that she has because it works its way into her vocal phrases really early on. Have a listen again.
Above us.
Above us. It's kind of in there.
Only sky.
And when she goes, only sky, it's the onset is really fast, meaning that the vibrato comes in straight away. It's not only sky, and then suddenly she's adding to the end of lines. So we'll probably hear this throughout the rest of the performance.
Imagine all the people.
So now here, when we went up to this E4, the first time It's just reminded me of another point. The first time we are pretty much between notes, between the D sharp 4 and the E4. So that will register as being flat because the next E4 was bang on. So you kind of get reminded of the fact that it was a bit flat because the next note, which is the same note melodically in the song, is now really accurate. And the thing it reminded me of was that this is not pitch corrected. And this is a huge thing that we have to mention. Sadly, in the modern day industry, everything is pitch corrected. This is a live vocal that has not been edited. 99.9% of what you hear in the industry today is edited. So it means that somebody, if they were to pitch correct this, would move all of the notes that are slightly off onto the lines so that it sounds like a faultless performance from a pitch perspective.
Living for today. Yeah, hey, imagine.
So now here's another point that I just want to make. When we're at this D sharp 4 again, accurate.
Living for today.
And another thing that we have to mention is that this isn't Yoko's language. You know, it's not her first language, English. So the way that she pronounces words is going to be different to somebody who speaks the language as their first language. She's using her chest voice exclusively here. So what I mean by that is when we listen to this phrase,
living for today,
and listen to the onset of the consonant D of today, you know, it's quite abrupt, but again, that's more of a language thing rather than a singing thing. There are points at which you say she can sing. She's hitting notes. She's got vibrato. She's sliding between notes here. And actually, something that I will say is she's sliding a minimal amount and she could probably afford to slide more. So again, just from a technique perspective, starting out with his chest voice, it's na 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 na. You know, it's all blasting it out effectively. That's what chest voice is. And it's dynamically in one place.
Living for today.
And listen to the today. You hardly really hear this slide because it's instantaneous. You know, it's not like a diagonal line that we're seeing here with pitch. I'm just taking this from previous analysis videos where we've looked at some of the best singers of all time. They slide all the time. So in this phrase here, when we're going just doing a, you know, na, just doing a tone slide, living for, just doing that, living for today, and you know, it's subtle, but it makes it so much softer than going today and going straight there, today, and sliding from your previous note, today. You know, it smooths it out and it makes it a lot easier to listen to and not as authoritarian sounding. So the other thing is here,
yeah, hey,
when we get up to this B4, Yoko is still in her chest voice, and this is why it sounds a little bit like yeah, hey, you know, like that shouty kind of sound, even though, you know, she's bang on with the B4. Again, going back to the original and the way that John Lennon sang this, obviously this is a lot higher, it's been transposed. But that top note was more like, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, it was lighter. Ha, ha. And then the ha, a little bit of a tail off of a run there as well. But this is the point. Dynamic range is another thing that with the slides, especially in this kind of song, that's not a belted note at the top. So again, when we're just fine-tuning the voice here, this would be something that, you know, Yoko could mess around with, finding her head voice, so that when she's going into that, you know, get used to having a lighter sound. And even down here going, Some say I'm a dreamer. You know, experiment with using dynamic range there. But I'm not the only one. And then maybe get a little bit, you know, more vocally strong, pushing your vocal cords together a little bit more. But get used to that. I'm not the only one. Full connection. Going to now airy. I'm not the only one. You know, and even like that, if it's possible, again, some people have just got a natural vibrato that they can't control, but if you can control it, not the only one, you can do that kind of thing, which is the hint of vibrato, but not one, but not really obvious. So yeah, again, just tiny tweaks, but she has the pitch accuracy to do this. You know, when you're hitting a B4 this accurately, it's just then a case of bringing in that dynamic range so that you get the light and the shade in the performance.
Imagine there's no countries.
And again, I mean, all that's missing there, and again, it's subjective, but to me is the dynamic range of having, imagine there's no countries, you know, of being this lighter rather than, imagine there's no countries, and kind of pushing too much. If anything, that's what I'd say. You know, Yoko might want to practice or just get used to breathing first and bringing your vocal cords together rather than building up the compression before the note comes out. So when you go, for example, going, imagine, and you're building up compression before the note comes out. But if you go, imagine, and you're only getting the word at the end of your breath, imagine, you can't make that noise loud or loudly. If you go, imagine, you haven't got the air to go, imagine, you haven't got all of that pressure built up. So by breathing first, imagine, oh, you'll naturally get a softer sound. And obviously, you know, when you're then singing, you don't have to do that every time, but just to get used to the feeling of singing with a more breathy sound, with that lower dynamic that you want to put across in a song, because sometimes you want to belt a note and sometimes you don't. You want it to be softer. You can imagine, no pun intended, how Yoko could change this performance and she wouldn't have to do that much.
Nothing to kill.
All of that. Again, that softer onset will limit the harshness of her consonants. You know, nothing to kill, all of that, going, nothing to kill. You're making it lighter, nothing to kill, because of the air. Nothing to kill. It's very hard without that compression built up beforehand to say nothing to kill. You need air. You need a lot of air to do that. So take away the air. Breathe out half of your air before doing it. Nothing to kill. And then you can't do that anymore.
Living life in peace. Yeah, hey, you may say I'm a dreamer.
And again, I mean, that B4, again, was really accurate at the top here. This rundown as well, the I would probably take that rundown out that she's doing, because she's connecting that with the B4, going and then coming down. Where if she went and broke off and went and just did a little run at the end, it's still perfectly acceptable, and it means that we're not taking this belted chest voice down this low where we go and we get that, it's too much of an aggressive sound coming down. Yoko doesn't have to do anything, because as an artist she can do whatever she likes, but as an analyst looking at voices, as we have done for a few years now, it is great because we can start to draw these parallels between one performance and another performance and see what one singer's doing, see what another singer isn't doing, and just try and match up. Especially if you're trying to improve your vocals, you can take all of the things that the great singers are doing and try and apply it to your own voice.
Say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Again, look at that G sharp 3. Pitch-wise, and hitting pitches accurately is a huge part of singing. Like I've already said, this is unedited from a pitch perspective, but it can take years to hit notes as accurately as Yoko is doing here. So I'd say that she's actually got probably what I'd consider the hardest part of singing, hitting pitches accurately. She's got that. All of the other things are just tiny tweaks that she needs to get used to and just practice. But if she can hit notes accurately, then all she's got to do is just breathe a little bit before singing and she'll still hit the note like she did before, but just with a slightly different sound.
And that world will be as one.
Even there, that world, that little run that she had in there as well was, again, it's accurate pitch-wise. The only thing it doesn't have in it is that dynamic range of, like I'm doing, going world, of using a lighter head voice sound.
I know one day you'll join us, and that world will be as one.
And there we have it. I mean, even at the end there, because this is a live recording, you can tell that Yoko is walking away from the mic or taking the mic away from her mouth to get a bit of a fade out effect. So she's got a bit of mic technique in there as well. And you can see that vibrato that she's holding really nice and even as well. So, I mean, it's a really interesting one to take a look at because this is by far not the worst voice I've ever heard. And there are things in there that I can latch onto and I think, yeah, it's pretty close to being what you would consider a good voice and a nice voice and potentially a great voice if you start picking out the parts that need a little bit of work. Because at the moment, she's got a really consistent, in this performance I'm talking about, going back into the 1980s, she has a really consistent voice across the board, and dynamically it's all at that one level, and she's hitting pitches accurately as well. And once you've got that, it's now just a case of tweaking this really consistent voice that we've already got. When you have a voice that just doesn't really have any consistency whatsoever, that's where you've really got to start from scratch and say, right, the first thing we're going to do is hit pitches and appreciate where notes are and teach your vocal cords how to get to those notes and teach them the muscle memory so that they always go to that same point for each particular note. Starting from scratch, you don't have to do that, which is especially the way that some people talk about Yoko Ono's voice. It's almost like, oh, she's so far off she can't sing at all and she doesn't have any appreciation of pitch or anything like that. But that's not the case. She's got a really solid voice, actually. If this person came to me and said, oh, can you give me some tips on how I could improve my voice, I would say, well, you're already really consistent. The only things you need are these things that I've pointed out. But anyway, thank you guys for requesting a look at Yoko Ono tonight. As always, keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!